Yes, here we go. It's the Monday Club. Fuck knows where Jonathan is. I thought he'd be on by now. I don't want to keep his waiting any longer. I'm sure he'll be, I don't know, flicking up his fringe or something like that, writing his next opening gambit. I'm sure he will join us soon. He has to come on at 7:30, so we'll do all that good stuff and all that, and that'll give him another wee minute or so before I'm sure he will arrive. Good evening to you all. Monday Club time. Wee bit later than normal. Hope your first day back at work for many of you was okay. Yeah, we'll do all that good stuff, and then hopefully the guy who keeps winning the quiz will be the sudden death quiz will be on just shortly. All that good stuff means give us a wee like, give us a share, by all means, like if you want to become a Bhoycie Bus member, like some of you have, such as Brown Warrior, like Scott Howe, like Gary Brown, like Monty. Monty's saying I should have texted him. I don't know what you're talking about, mate. Who did you talk to me if you didn't have my number? I can't remember this. Jim C. Who else is in there? Loads he is. Phil McGinley's in there. Good tweet today, mate. I like that. Charles Smith. Loads he is. But yes, it is the Monday after Celtic were back to action this weekend. That was good, wasn't it? It's good that we were back in action. And we got obviously a 5-0 win over Buckie. Me and Terry did the wee post-match show not long after the game, as we normally do, the PMP, and it was a decent weekend's action. Obviously, we've seen a bit of posturing from Brendan. Called him Brenda. I'm nervous, man. But aye, he was at it, wasn't he, when he did his wee delay, and then he just says, "As we know." Oh, Jonathan, I tell you what the problem is for Jonathan. He doesn't have a fucking link. That'll be the problem. I'll send him a link now. He'll be sitting there waiting on him. But yeah, when it comes to Brendan's attitude with that, it was quite spiky. It struck me as a confident manager. But I've got to say, I wonder is that based on the fact that he's a happy manager? And if he is a happy manager, does that mean he's a manager getting his way this window? Is there still to be hope left that this window is going to somehow surprise us, somehow mean that we're going to get players in that are of that quality that Brendan speaks about? But I'm a bit confused by it all, because with the amount of days left, I don't mind a free pop at the Huns. I mean, I'm all for that. I think Monty's alluding to that in the chat there. But for me, it's usually you get signs of confidence like that when everything behind you is going swimmingly. Now, I think from the team's point of view, he was quick to say we played to the levels he had hoped for. Jonathan, just realised I was waiting on you for ages. I hadn't sent you the link, so apologies. I was giving you pelters, mate.
So you've already started without me.
I know, mate. I know. Don't worry. I was just talking shite. You can take it away if you want.
Bloody hell! I'm now just right on the spot here. I was thinking, who's he talking to? I was thinking, who else is joining us tonight? I was thinking, I've not got the memo. Anybody else is joining us? You got fucking CL.
My fault. Jonathan, it was a weekend where Celtic got a win in the Scottish Cup. Obviously, there's still more dealings to do in the transfer window. Brendan seems confident, as we know. Crack on, mate.
Well, Russell, Celtic tanned the Buckie indeed at the weekend. Thistle were left punch drunk after Celtic were through with them, but they did have their spirits raised by Brendan Rodgers when he made an appearance in the Buckie dressing room. But away from the football, the buck does indeed stop with Brendan Rodgers when it comes to the transfer business that Celtic need to get done in the next couple of weeks. And the question on everyone's mind is, will he answer the call as we know he can? Or will this become a moment where we fail to act and dry January for many turns into fucked up February for the Celtic supporters who have to endure another 6 months with the current crop of players. Decision time is looming for Celtic and the board.
Indeed, mate. Indeed. I like it. Decision time. Yeah, I was talking there about Brendan sort of his demeanour after the game. Obviously, we know the dig that's went viral, that As We Know dig, which was brilliantly delivered, I've got to say. And I'm all for moments like that throughout the season. Do you know what I mean? I think you've got to have your wee pops as and when. And he times his very well. I've said that consistently. He's one of these guys, very much in the Ange Postecoglou mould of, he delivers these sort of moments like that, usually after the event or when he's got achievements on the board, not to try and curry favour with supporters when he's kind of stuck in a rut like Mickey Beale, for example. But yeah, when he did that, that strikes me a manager who's very happy. And if he's happy, that must mean behind the scenes, things are going well. We might just not be privy to it. Is there an argument that when he's acting like that, very confident, you could say Gallus, I mean, he was on form on the in the presser, full stop. He was quite thingy about Rocco Vata. Jeez, going back a wee while. But yeah, he was quite not brutal, but he was quite to the point, a matter of fact, and sort of flipping the narrative in, as in he's the lucky one to be here, sort of thing, was the vibe I took from his comments on Vata. I listened to it again tonight. It was played on the radio. That attitude that we were seeing for Brendan after a 5-0 win over Buckie, you would doubt that it's going to be because they beat Buckie Thistle in the Cup. It would seem like things are going maybe a bit more swimmingly than what I think the fan base feels right now. I think there's a lot of frustration at the time it takes us to get signings over the line, or if we're going to make any this window. And the thing is that really probably bugs the fans the most is it's a narrative that's been set by the manager, because he's told us the last 2 months he wants to add 4 players of quality. I told the board that in the summer. Then it was, there is a need for quality to be brought in. And the word quality came up time and again. So, of course, that takes us to a space where January is going to be, when that happens, that's the next window. Let's get to January. We're going to strengthen the first team. It's not happened yet. But does Brendan's sort of attitude, bullishness that we've seen yesterday, does that lead you to think that maybe there's more going on behind the scenes? And he looked like a manager, very content to say the least.
Yeah, he did look a lot happier, didn't he? I don't know, perhaps as obviously the form has been picking up before the winter break, he'll be encouraged. I know it's only Buckie Thistle, but the performance level was still good, regardless of the opposition in that game. I think he's probably hopeful that there's a few more deals to be done behind the scenes. Perhaps that is where his confidence is coming from. Perhaps he's looking across the city and was expecting more of a reaction from them in January. In terms of this title race, and he's maybe thinking they haven't really reacted in the way I thought. So I think it's a combination of factors there at play. I think Brendan Rodgers is a man who's always fairly self-assured. I think the fact that those results have went in our favour the past few weeks have definitely helped build back up his confidence if it was at any point ever lacking, really. And I think he's having a bit of fun, and he knows when to strike. He is a little bit like Ange Postecoglou when it comes to that in the pressers, that he knows when to throw in the digs, and he does it at the right times when Celtic are on a high, and he doesn't try and just chuck them in and try and curry favour, if you like, with the supporters when things aren't going so well. He's very much a clever man when it comes to that part of media management. And I think when we look at it all, yeah, it has to be encouraging that there is potential there for more deals to be done. I'd be astounded if Celtic are finished in the transfer business, although I expected more in the summer, and I've had that come back and bite me on the arse then. But I genuinely would be amazed if there isn't further deals being done. Whether they're going to be the blockbuster names that we're all hoping for, I'm not so sure. But perhaps they are going to be names that Brendan has identified and that he feels can make an impact in the team. And as part of that, you know, he'll be able to take control. And he's very much looking like a man assured, and as if he knows what the next couple of moves on the old chessboard are going to be. So let's see how it all plays out in the next week or two.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think David Kelly's came in, and great to have you on the bus as always, David. Top man. He's saying if I was on Roger's wage, I'd take whatever the board gave me as well, especially if it was my last decent gig in the industry. I don't think it'll be his last decent gig in the industry, to be honest with you. And more importantly, it's more the change of tact. I take your point, anyone would be happy on £60,000 a week being the Celtic manager, and you take what the board would give you. I get all that. But you can't deny there's a change in his demeanour from where he was a couple of months ago to now. And we've only brought in one player, a player that we negotiated on the £3 million fee for. That wouldn't usually lead you to sort of being so far removed from the very frustrated looking Brendan, who was pointing his finger at the recruitment side of things in the summer when we had a couple of ropey results, albeit the results have improved. We got the 4 league wins in a row. We've had a winter break, so we'll have got a lot of good work done then, and the players will be refreshed, and he'll be happy with players coming back from injury. But I think there's more to it than that. He can't be that happy just over those factors, and that can tell me. Apparently, even went into the Buckie Thistle dressing room, according to the manager, even gave a speech as well. So very much like he is in a good space. I wonder what's led him to that. Blockbuster names that you mentioned, obviously we don't expect that now. I think the summer there was the one time I think we allowed ourselves, some of us did, myself mainly, allowed ourselves to think we might sort of push the envelope a bit, do you know what I mean? And try and get levels of player in that we're not accustomed to at Celtic, that might raise a few eyebrows, might get us dreaming again. Perhaps I talk about that a lot in the bus. But I do wonder if the reason for his change in attitude is because there's things going on behind the scenes that he's feeling confident about. The only difference is with this is we don't have any links to go by. We don't have any rumours. And to be honest with you, our business is better getting done that way. It is better getting done that way. For us as fans, from the selfish point of view, we love watching transfer rumours come in. It's fucking one of the best things about being a football fan of any team. You'll love all the links. You'll love reading the goss. Don't try and turn sport into a complete science all the time and be a complete bore all your life. I love it when you see fantasy names linked with Celtic and things like that. I don't think I'll ever grow out of that, even at 36 years old right now. And it's something that, whilst it's not happening at this moment in time, the persona of the manager yesterday strikes me as someone who might have some sort of ace up his sleeve, albeit I don't think it will be in the mould we maybe had hoped for in the summer. But I think in terms of improving the first team, I've got hopes that Brendan will still do that, even if it's in the shape of loans. I think the vibe I'm getting is that it'll be loans that Brendan's very much ticked and approves of.
Yeah, I think that sounds like it could very well be the case. I think when you're looking at Brendan, I think, if we're looking at the confidence element that he's got, and, you're alluding to the fact there's no rumours, I think Brendan would like it that way, and that would probably only add to his confidence, because there's been too many times at Celtic, even in his first time around, where, lineups were getting leaked, transfers were getting leaked ahead of schedule. So if there's something going on in the background and he's managed to keep that under wraps and the media are unaware, and he's going to strike in the next few days with a new player in the building that nobody's seen coming, then yeah, I think he would be quite smug about that for the next couple of days, and would be feeling a little bit more bold going into his presses, that he knows a few things perhaps that the media don't quite yet know. So I think when we're looking at it, I think it is most likely going to be loans. That's where I'm kind of at now. I think it's probably going to be difficult to get the type of players in perhaps that he wants in this window. I know that's the board pandering that sort of line to us, and perhaps we're all getting a bit too used to being spoon-fed that. But there is an element of truth to the fact that January is a tougher window than the summer to get top players in, particularly if they're doing well for their clubs and their clubs are having a good season. They're going to want to keep hold of them, similar to us with Matt O'Reilly, to be perfectly honest. It takes a lot to prize the better players away from their clubs halfway through a season. So I think Celtic will more likely look for loan deals. They will look for players that can come in that are not getting game time elsewhere, but they will absolutely be ones that Brendan, I think, has identified. If we go down the loan strategy, I would be astonished if they were ones that the board we're pushing on to Brendan, especially if it's loans with no option to buy, which I'm not overly keen on, but I think Brendan might feel the ends justify the means at this moment. I feel he's obviously identified he feels he needs a strong left back.
Slowly but surely, the hope and the expectation of us fans, though, is dropping by the minute. Connor was on the other day, and he'd said something about loan signings, and I'd went, do you mean like I wasn't pulling him up in any way, shape, or form. I was just saying, does that not tell you like the hopes have really dropped? And then you're saying, we're kind of, it probably will be loans. I'm not a fan of loans unless there's options to buy, and now there's buts at the end of everything that you don't really want, because whether we like it or not, we're being conditioned and we're downsizing along with Celtic our hopes and aspirations for the team. If Rodgers is part of that, then so be it. But I do think I'm nowhere near where I was with the summer window, but I'm confident now, looking at Brendan's attitude, that we are going to get at least 2 more in before the end of the window. And like you're touching on, they're going to be players that the manager's sort of given more of a seal of approval on than what he did with the summer ones, where I think, to be honest with you, he became a bit of a happy clapper himself. And I think he was actually just, Celtic's fantastic, everything you do is great, and I love life. And you're like, just calm right fucking down and get back to looking at things from a more cynical point of view, Brendan, and just let your eyes, tell you whether a player's good enough or not. And I think this window, the one thing we can't accuse anyone of is it's not been full of filler. Thank fuck for that, eh?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's one thing. You definitely don't want to be bringing in any players that aren't going to make an instant impact on the team. We've got far too many of them on the books just now. Doesn't look like very many of them are going to get shifted in this window. You're talking about rumours. There doesn't seem to be a lot of rumours gathering any momentum for exits out of Celtic that, we'd be quite happy to get rid of. Even the ones that seem to be getting linked to ones you'd rather keep, like your Matt O'Reillys, like your Leo Labadas, and hopefully we are able to hold on to them, and then they'll probably turn around and say that was a reasonably successful window in some ways in January. It's more keeping your prized assets than perhaps being able to go into the market and bring in ready-made players, particularly in permanent transfers in this window. When we're looking at loans, I think, if Brendan does decide to go down that route, as I say, I think the ends might justify the means here. I don't necessarily agree with how we've got into this position as a club, but I feel that window in the summer is one that we're always going to be looking back on and being particularly underwhelmed, to use that famous word, with. I think that's one that, we're always going to look back on and think we should have done more in that window. But if he's going to need a couple of bodies in that are ready to go straight into the first team, he might well feel that his best option there is to do loan signings, because he's already identified, I think, a couple of players. I think he's certainly looking at a left back for me. I think he doesn't feel Taylor's got any competition. He doesn't like Burnaby. I don't think he wants to use Burnaby at all if he can help it in the second half of the season, which you can't blame him. He's not shown that he's particularly good enough to be playing for Celtic, even at a domestic level. I wouldn't necessarily trust him in a lot of the games domestically. And I think he's got to be looking at a striker, Russell. I really do think that is a position that needs strengthening, particularly with the Asian Cup on just now. If anything does happen to Kyogo, what happens there? Is he going to end up having to put a winger back up front? I don't really know who he slots in there, but it's going to be somebody that's a square peg for a round hole. That much is abundantly clear as far as I'm concerned if we don't address that. And we all know Kyogo's suspect to injuries. Granted, he's had a better run of it this season, but it doesn't take too much to throw him off for a few weeks, and we can't afford that just now. Not when we're in the middle of a real title race. Make no mistake about it. The point gap might suggest this isn't much of a title race, but you've got to remember Rangers have those games in hand, and if they're able to win them, which we've got to assume they will, if we're planning worst case scenario whilst we're in a transfer window, which we should be doing, then we need to also be looking at our position and thinking that's another reason to strengthen, because we often turn around on this show, rightly or wrongly, and say Celtic are a reactive board, and they tend to keep an eye on what's going on over the garden fence across the city. Well, if that's the case, they've got to be looking across the city and realising that, shit, we actually have got a bit of a title race going on here. So we need to make sure that we are preparing ourselves in the best manner possible for the second half of this season. And I get it. I think with what Brendan's saying and how he's coming across, there is signs that that must be happening internally for me. But the proof's going to be in the pudding, shall we say, in the next few days. And we're going to find out just how serious Celtic are taking this title challenge from our rivals. Because for me, the two positions I'm going to be suggesting need improved is left back and striker. And that's the two I suspect Brendan has identified loan signings for.
Identifying players is one thing, getting them over the line is the other, and everything's a sum of moving parts, because you look at the Owen Beck one, and it went from Celtic in to get Owen Beck on loan, Celtic might be in to get Owen Beck permanently, Owen Beck comes on as sub for Liverpool, and it seemed to dampen that massively. The Owen Beck one is a player that would have been on a list of left backs, say it was 3 or 4. If he was on that list, he'd have been added the latest out of the other targets, I would like to think. If this list mainly comprises of ones that Brendan and the scouting team have identified, not fucking whoever else wants to throw in their tuppence worth. You never know now. It would surprise me if Peter Lawwell suggested players at times. Honestly, nothing would. But you would imagine he was the last one to be added to the list, such as it being they'd monitored his form after his first couple of months that were decent at Dundee. He maybe became someone they kept an eye on, and then maybe by the time December came around, they went, fucking hell, yeah, he's on the list now. If that one has now went south because of his appearance for Liverpool at the weekend there, that shouldn't mean that's the left back search over. That should mean we identify other ones on the list. If we weren't to get a left back in, and let's just play devil's advocate, the Owen Beck deal scuppers us bringing in a left back now, because there isn't another option that the board and Rodgers can agree on in terms of fee or quality that they bring to the squad. That would be really poor, because it's undeniably, I agree with you, a position that has been identified as one that wants to be strengthened and can be strengthened. And if we don't get one this window, whether it be on loan or whether it be permanent, we can have that discussion with the pros and cons of that if you like. But if we don't, I'd be really concerned, because that would strike me that maybe the only link we had being Owen Beck during January. I know Arojo, I don't know how to pronounce his name, was linked maybe for a month, maybe 2 months, sort of leading up to January, but seems to have went cold. But with the Owen Beck, when he seems the only one with a bit of substance this month, and if that one obviously can't be done now because of his appearance for Liverpool, and we don't bring in another, that'd be fucking weird, eh? And that would be then glaringly obvious, Jonathan, that the plan ain't as well thought out as Celtic would like to try and kid you on there it is.
It'd be gross negligence if there isn't other options on that list, as far as I'm concerned, because I feel like that's somewhere Brendan Rodgers will have identified very early into the season. Fair enough, we're going to say the summer window was a write-off. Perhaps he didn't have a left back on his radar at that point because he was still getting his feet under the table. And we've already went through that he should have been more alert at that point. But I would imagine from October at the latest, he would have probably realised he felt he needed better than Greg Taylor. So if the scouting department haven't came up with any more options other than 2 potentials at left back, then that would be scandalous mismanagement in that department for me. I would like to think there should be a list of names there that they're in agreement on. And as I say, sometimes there will be moments where deals like this won't be able to happen in this window, so you will be having to take a few out of that list. I'm not saying it's necessarily you're able to necessarily, if you miss your first one, you're definitely going to get your second one or anything like that. But I'd be astonished if there isn't both options there on a permanent transfer and also loan potential signings as well for that position, because it's one Brendan's looked at a lot. If you're asking me, ideally, you're of course wanting the permanent deal. I think particularly at left back, because you're just going back to square one in the summer transfer window if you don't end up buying a permanent one, because you're then back to the status quo of Greg Taylor and Burnaby, and then you're looking at it and thinking, if you've not got any potential to buy this player that you bring in on loan, which
a lot of the times there isn't that option. You've seen it in Brendan Rodgers' first spell, for example. He brought in a couple of guys on loan that he was never really going to be able to bring in permanently. Charlie Masonda, I think, was one that rang a bell immediately. But, there's options there that if you're bringing in somebody on a loan, they have to go in and make an impact straight away in the first team, but then you're still having to deal with it again in the summer. It's just putting a plaster over it. I don't know if that's necessarily what we need, because I think Taylor's probably competent enough to see us through the second half of the season, but we need the competition. I'd rather have a permanent one there if we possibly could, to try and improve that longer term. But Brendan might be looking at it and thinking the better options for that position are going to be available in the summer. He may well be looking at that and thinking, with his striker options as well, the better options there might be available in the summer. He might still look up front, and he might not have written awful. So I'm not too worried if he did go for a loan up front, just to tide him over for the Asian Cup. And then play it by ear with O and see if he can get a tune out of him. But I'm not convinced. I think O's got more chance of making it than Burnaby, though. That's for damn clear for me that O looks like he's at least got something about him that he could offer something to the team, whereas Burnaby looks like a headless chicken most of the time that he plays. So when we're looking at it like that, I would probably say if we get one loan and one permanent, I probably wouldn't be too upset. If it's two loans, I'll probably be a bit frustrated, if I'm being completely honest with you. But if they were players that were going to come in and make an instant impact in the first team, you'll probably be able to accept it a bit quicker. What I won't be happy with is if we end up doing panic loans towards the end of the window, like we've seen before in Brendan Rodgers.
We are towards the end of the window, though.
We are getting towards the end of the window, but they might well.
The football started again, mate. Like, that's what I don't get as well. Like, the summer you talk about, or sometimes you talk about in January getting guys to bed them in for the Champions League or the Champions League qualifiers, because we used to play in them. That used to be like a narrative quite often. Don't know why we don't get guys in January and give them 5 months bedding in. January you get a 4-week period, or just over 4 weeks. We didn't even get anyone in the first 2 weeks of January. We didn't bring in anyone.
I know.
And that's giving them no bedding in period. The football restarts, and we're then going to start signing players. So don't think this is a show where we're completely condoning things that we've criticised in the past, or feel like, suddenly because Brendan's attitude's changed that, there's real light at the end of the tunnel. I just think from his point of view, whether I agree with the strategy or not, he's definitely happier all round. And I've got to think that is based on things that are going on behind the scenes in terms of recruitment. I don't need to share the view of Brendan Rodgers that 2 loan signings, make me buzzing. But a happier manager, I think, will lead to a better Celtic in the second half of the season. Because the first half of the season was, it was up and down, to say the least, let's be honest.
Yeah, it was a roller coaster. It started extremely strongly, and then it kind of it dipped. And there was a few suspect performances along the way where we did manage to get the points as well. If we're being brutally honest with how that first half of the season went, the results were there, but then the performances did begin to tail off, and we ended up letting Rangers back in. But then again, towards the end of that sort of half season, if you like, we ended up turning it back around and showing that we are capable of doing the job domestically with the players we have at our disposal. But there's no two ways about it. I think when Brendan's looking at this, he's got to be looking at it, and I think he's got to have confidence there that there is players that are coming in, whether we like it or not, whether it's loans or whether it's permanent. I think they're going to be players that Brendan Rodgers believes can play how Brendan Rodgers wants them to play. The players that Brendan Rodgers, if we're going to go back to what Ange Postecoglou used to always say, he was always somebody that would buy a player based on their character as well as their footballing ability.
You've got to buy them based on character, mate, when you can't get any half decent ones in the fucking door.
Well, that's part of the thing, but I think having the right mentality at a club like Celtic is important as well. It's a bit different from a lot of other football clubs. The expectancy levels are extremely high.
In the words of Bertie Auld, aye, but can they play? I mean, come on. Their character and all that, I think, is when you start going down the lists of the prerequisites of a Celtic potential signing, and you start going, are they sound? I mean, do you think they'll train hard in that? I mean, fucking hell. That's when you know you're going down the list. Difficult players, if they've got all the ability, can always be managed as well by good managers. Do you know what I mean? I think once you get down to the character stuff and all that, I think that's when you know the level of ability you're looking at is now secondary, because you're not willing to push the boat out and get in players of a quality that will improve the first team. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I take your point, but I think squad harmony is also important as well. I don't think you want somebody in that's going to ruffle too many feathers either and potentially derail morale.
Just can't play football.
I've never said they can't play football. Ideally, you want both, Russell. That's the ideal situation. You don't want too many troublemakers in there causing chaos. I know you like a troublemaker. I know that they're always your favourites, the Mavericks, that have played for Celtic down the years, that maybe don't toe the party line as much. But I think Brendan Rodgers is somebody who'd rather not have the players that are going to be giving him headaches alongside, potentially upsetting a few of the other first team regulars in the squad as well. So I think Rodgers will see certain character traits as something that he'll like. I mean, he was the one who coined the term "great character," if you remember back in the day. So I mean, I think that's important to him too. So I think when we're looking at it, when we see this confidence coming from, I think it's definitely a sign. Hopefully that we're correct, but I think that it's going to be his types of players as well as, being hopefully of the level to improve the first team immediately. And let's be honest, in certain positions, they don't need to be brilliant to be necessarily better than what we've already got. Hopefully they are, of course. But, when you're looking at it as well, you're wanting players there that are going to be able to play the way that Brendan wants them to play. And, Brendan feels is going to increase that sort of, morale amongst the players, give them all a lift, that they're going to be able to come in and make an impact, and also be able to be a bit more harmonious with the team. However, if a Maverick was available, Russell, would I be against it? I wouldn't say I'm necessarily against it. I just think I just think Brendan Rodgers will be looking at players that he feels are going to fit more in with the current crop that he has, and I think something like that. When he signed big characters before, I'm not sure Brendan always necessarily enjoys having to manage them, which I think he'd prefer somebody that's going to be a bit easier on the eye, shall we say. And I think if his confidence levels are up, that suggests to me he's got somebody in mind to bring in that's probably going to be a bit easier to manage.
Joe Allen.
Give him a headache. Joe Allen, a beautiful human being.
Yeah, I mean, I'd all be for a Hellraiser to join. I'm all for that, mate. I'm all for someone to come in who's a wee bit naughty. I think that'd be good. But football's boring as fuck these days. You have so many boring farts going, oh, I know, but did you not see he smoked a cigarette in 2009? So you're like, who gives a fuck, man? Do you know what I mean?
There's not many of them though anymore, is there? They all seem to be a lot more model professionals these days. You don't see as many of them.
They are, to be fair. I think now if they don't put a comma where it was meant to go in one of their tweets, then they get like, the grammar police after them and that. Yeah.
The Gucci belt.
Talking about strikers, I've got an opinion, and that's all it is. It's not based on fuck all. We're not ITK in the buses. I'm sure you've gathered by now if you still actually watch us. Striker-wise, I think it'll be someone of a certain vintage. Maybe not in their 30s necessarily, but I think it'll be someone on a career resurrection journey that's wanting to probably get their name in the shop window again. Someone who's maybe had fleeting moments in the past where they looked a player and then it's maybe not worked out for them over the last 18 months or so, or 2 years, whatever it may be. I've got a feeling that could be the type of player we could target, or someone maybe who's found himself on the bench this year and is looking for that final swan song, maybe in the mould of a Jermaine Defoe going to Rangers sort of thing. It wouldn't surprise me all that much if that would be, as you pointed out earlier, a player to come in to tide us over, if you like, and be that backup option that maybe would be quite an interesting signing based on their name, maybe not based on what they've achieved over the last few years or so, but someone who could come in and if you can get them up to match sharpness, would be able to score goals. It wouldn't surprise me if that was the sort of profile we'll get as a third striker. A loan signing, perhaps his career's took a downward turn and he's looking to resurrect it for 5 months at Celtic. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds like something that would be a bit more interesting, I think, to the supporter base. I think we can live with a loan if it's for the striker, because I think that is something we can continue to look and see what happens with O. And then again, we can assess that in the summer. And, if it was a case that we were to look at somebody who is perhaps a bit older, you never know. If you take them on a loan, you might not have the option to buy necessarily straight off the bat. But if it's somebody of that sort of mould, like what Defoe was at Rangers, then you could potentially be able to sell them on Celtic over 6 months and get them to kind of, start putting the word in their current employers that they do want to move permanently as well. And Brendan Rodgers is very good, I think, at that side of management, where he would be in their ear if he felt he could potentially persuade them to hang around for longer than 6 months and, really try and put a bit of pressure on their parent club to sell, particularly if it was to be somebody that wasn't available. Jamie Vardy, Alistair Jack's coming in with Jamie Vardy would be an interesting one, wouldn't it?
Just to be clear, Alistair Jack said, Russell, you have just said Vardy. I don't think I did.
No, you never said that, but I think he's joining the dots from Defoe and thinking.
Joining the dots. Jim. What's his first name? Jamie Vardy.
Vardy.
I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me. I don't know how well him and Brendan get on. I don't know.
Maybe a bit more of a maverick him as well. He might be a little bit more of a maverick.
I think there'll be a lot of forgotten names from down south that you maybe hear the name and go, fuck yeah, he was quite decent for that season in 2015-16 or whatever year it might be, and you might go, fucking, he might still be able to do a job. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the sort of profile we get for a striker. As for the left back, on loan. Is that what we're saying? A loan signing at left back, and then can we hope for much more than that? Another winger? Fuck it, let's get another winger in.
You may as well. We're not got enough of them anyway. See if they can play a few different positions. Maybe a winger that can play left back or striker. Utility player, that'd be quite good. But as long as they can play it wide, first and foremost, that's the most important position that we always need to be looking at strengthening. From a position of strength, we need to continue to grow that area out a bit more, I feel. But, I think as left back, I'd not be as keen on the loan option, although I'm beginning to accept that might be where this is going to go, because we are getting towards that point in the transfer window where things are getting difficult to get deals done. Celtic, if they were going to do a permanent deal, I think would have had them done far earlier. So you probably are looking more likely at a loan deal at this point. Comes with a bit less risk, I guess you could argue as well, if you're looking at the positives, because you're bringing one in and it's not necessarily going to be a big risk there. If it doesn't work out, you just send them back, similar to what we did with Nat Phillips in the first half of the season. So you do have that bit of security there, that you're not going to have them on the books if they are one of these players that perhaps comes up from England and completely flops. But ideally, I would like to see a left back signed permanently. If it was going to be one permanent and one loan, I'd far rather the permanent was the left back position, because I feel that one there's no competition for Greg Taylor. I feel like could potentially become somebody that can be a bit more competitive with Kyogo.
Fucking no chance. No way.
I don't think he'd be close enough to get necessarily starts ahead of Kyogo, but I think he could become an able deputy. I think that's somebody Brendan might look at that has legs in him. I mean, I'm not convinced he's brilliant, but I think
there's a big difference between brilliant and playing for Celtic. I think he'll be either. I think he'll be a regular for Celtic, and I don't think he'll be brilliant.
Yeah, he might not be. I mean, the signs thus far don't suggest he will be. But,
it's only been a year.
All right. Well, we've seen players though. James Forrest was around for a long time, Russell, before Brendan came in the first time. And I like James Forrest. And Brendan Rodgers resurrected him when everyone thought he was done. So, don't write anybody off. Ryan Christie was another
Dele Alli, Marty Boy's suggesting
was
for Everton.
Who?
Dele Alli.
Dele Alli. Oh yeah, Dele Alli's.
Something like that wouldn't surprise me at all.
Again, I think he'd be another one.
I think Dele Alli would be that. It'd be the exact type of mould that wouldn't surprise me to see Brendan looking at a player going, lost his way a bit, bags of ability, played at international. So one of the first names in the England team sheet only a few years ago, still only 27, I think. That wouldn't surprise me if we were to bring someone in for 5 months to try and resurrect it. And amazingly, there'd be a snobby attitude to that, but there's a snobby attitude to every signing Celtic make. We don't even give them a chance to kick a ball now. There's a snobby attitude to players we get that no one's heard of. There's a snobby attitude to players from within our league. There's a snobby attitude to players that have had brilliant careers but maybe lost away, like many of Celtic's very good players under Martin O'Neill that were brought in. You could argue had maybe been the same and went on to be, absolute heroes here. Chris Sutton, that terrible season at Chelsea. Ramon Vega in that season couldn't get a game at Spurs. Who else springs to mind? Alan Thompson wasn't getting his game at Aston Villa. There's more than that. There's loads more. But interesting shout, Marty boy. I like that. I would be all for it. Anyway, we've got Phil McGinley here. We're going to do the quiz. Not all that much to talk about, so we'll just start a wee bit early. Here he comes. Hey, what's happening, my man?
All good, mate. All good. How are you tonight?
Oh, mate. I'm zen about the quiz now. I know it's over, so I'm zen. I'm not under any pressure.
Well, that's a good way to look at it, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. If there's a question about Celtic, Russell will lose, as we know.
Well, I'll keep us guessing.
As we know. Very good. He did that, as we know, very well, didn't he? It was good. It was good. It was top. That'll be a wee snipped up thing for a while. What's he call it? I mean,
I'll be up there with Ange's little facial expression he did at St Mirren.
Aye.
That's right. Aye. Definitely will. I've seen it in the rounds already. The other one that does the rounds as well, when Charlie Mulgrew did the interview, you're Region, aren't you? Or something. He sounds Region. That one as well.
Region, isn't he? Yeah.
Aye, Region, isn't he? That's it.
That was class as well. That was a good one.
Aye.
That was a good one. Yeah. Joe Henry says his money is on me for this one.
Well, you're long overdue it, Russ, to be fair,
Joe,
put too much on it, Joe.
I hope it's not a lot of money, and whoever it is you've put it, you've bet it with, are considerate enough to just keep it back and write it off after. Fucking hell. I better turn my comments off.
Well, the current score on the scoreboard is 11-5 to Jonathan, 6 points in it, but there are still lots of time to go. We're still well away from the finish line, so you've got to start soon, though, Russell. So
I'm going to need to pick the ball up soon, man. You know what I mean?
You do, mate. But yeah, I'll get the aesthetics ready, and we will be good to go on another rousing edition of Sutton Deaf. I
really thought, like, last week, maybe this week, I'm now prime off the bevy. That's been like a good 2 and a bit weeks now. Like, my brain should be like pretty clear.
I think you do better when you're drinking, to be honest.
So do I.
Don't encourage me. You're more confident when you're drinking. You're more just bold.
It's a false economy, Jonathan. That's what drink does. Definitely. I'm the shy and retiring type, really.
So we can expect a big comeback as soon as January's over.
Once February happens, that's it, man. Crack the bottle open, that is me. I'll be on a crusade to the Sutton Deaf title.
Well, Jonathan, you got the point last week. Do you want to go first or second?
I'll let Russell keep his clue. I'll go first.
Traditions. Okay.
It's embarrassing I get a chance every week as well. Fucking hell, I need to get 4.
So, tonight's question comes from one of my go-to supplies. Dav Lynch has sent me this one in my inbox.
Oh, yes, Dav.
Which, of course, if anybody else has any questions, then, of course, they can send it to me on Twitter. Just make sure it has 10 answers. If it has 10 answers, then we can use it. But yeah, this one's got 21 answers, guys. 21, so there's plenty of them
to choose from.
And it is a Celtic question. It is that. And basically, simple sounding question. 21 Celtic players have scored a direct free kick in competitive games since the year 2000. Can you name them?
Fucking genius.
That's a good one, that. I actually do quite like that one. That one. I'm going to start with the same man I started last week with and go Henrik Larsson.
Yeah, Larsson has indeed scored direct from a free kick. Correct.
Naka.
Obviously, yes.
Alan Thompson.
Oh, fuck off.
Yeah,
I knew you were going to try and take Thompson.
I was. Sean Maloney.
Oh, I just written him down.
Yeah, Maloney, correct answer, yep.
That was annoying. Lubo.
Yeah, Lubo's scored one, yep. Well, they might have scored more than that, but they've scored.
First touch in a Celtic shirt, Barry Robson.
Yeah, Barry Robson.
Oh,
yes,
very
and
good.
Jade
That
up-
was very well remembered.
Yep.
Thank you.
I know. I'm quite impressed with that one.
Thank you. Don't rub it in anymore. Thank you. Move on.
I'm actually almost guessing at this point already, to be honest with you. I'm struggling to think of many other ones. I've definitely scored a free kick. Gonna guess Petrov.
Yeah, Petrov scored one at Ibrox. The goalkeeper, and Kloss fumbled it into the net. Yep.
Lovely.
Odson Edward.
Yes, he did indeed. An absolute screamer in Brendan Rodgers' last game in his first spell against Motherwell.
Oh, was it? Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's given me one. I remember in Brendan's first spell, Lee Griffiths scoring one in the Europa Champions League qualifier.
Scored plenty, Griffiths. Yeah, he did. So, Russell, you need this to force extra time, sudden death.
I think I've got it, but I'll use my clue anyway.
Okay, so the clue for one of the missing answers is not the Swedish striker you are thinking of.
Oh, John Guidetti.
Guidetti, yes, indeed. I think he scored Blether Thistle in a cup game, a midweek
Yes, I'm
cup
still in
game.
it.
So it's 5 each. So yeah, we either keep going until we get to 10, or we'll go through 10, or whoever, sudden death, whoever wins. So here we go, 5 more guesses maximum, guys.
This is a bit more of a random one. I think he did. And it's very strange I remember this. Virgil van Dijk.
Yeah, he scored a screamer against Hibs at Easter Road and in a cup semi-final against Inverness.
Yeah, the cup game.
Shit. Ryan Christie.
Oh, that's good.
Correct, yeah, Ryan Christie's a correct answer, yep.
That was good.
No, I don't know.
Now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty.
How many are left?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 left.
Okay.
9 left. This is another one that's a bit of a guess, but I think he'll have hit a few in his time. I'm going to say Aidan McGeady.
You're right, Aidan McGeady's a correct answer. Yeah.
I've got one. Charlie Mulgrew.
Oh, of course.
You've made that up. Obviously, you've got, though, the Scottish Cup final in 2011 is one of his notable ones, a pure netbuster against Motherwell. Yep.
Fucking hell, I'm still in it.
7 left.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
Yeah, this is getting tricky now. Again, I'm going to take a punt on somebody that I feel will have hit a number of free kicks in his time and hopefully scored one. Chris Commons.
It's an incorrect answer.
Yes!
It's not a correct
And I've
one.
got one.
Oh,
man. It's a chance.
Tony Stokes.
Anthony Stokes with the correct answer. Yes, Anthony Stokes.
He's off the drink and back with a bag. It's all on.
Oh,
Get in there.
Well done.
I wait for a pint now.
Yeah.
Yes. Get in there.
So that brings the score back to 11-6, 5 points in it. So the missing answers that you didn't get, I say a few real deep cuts in this one. Stuart Armstrong apparently scored one. Eyal Berkovic scored one.
Oh, shit.
I remember this one because I was at the game. Lee Naylor scored one against Rangers in a bit of a
game.
game.
Right, I was there.
Tom Rogic has scored one, or more than that, but he's definitely scored. Yeah,
I couldn't picture Tom Rogic. I had him in my mind and I could not think of one.
I would never have guessed Tom Rogic.
And 2 quite recent ones. One who's currently in the Celtic squad, David Turnbull. David Turnbull has scored one. And probably one of the most recent ones, and again, this just proves again that you always struggle when it comes to more recent. Jota last season in the Bernabeu. A goal that brought tears to the eye. We were 5-0 down.
Joe Henry says he's just won 250,000 from his bet.
I only put a pin on it.
I'm buzzing with that, man.
There you go. Momentum shift.
Momentum shift. He feels the pressure. I've got one more sober week next week, and then that's it. It's pints galore, champagne a lot. I'm doing it. I'm going to get right messed up the first Monday. First Monday club back in February. I'm just going to come on reeking, and I'm going to destroy it, this stupid quiz. Honestly, I cannot wait. I'll win next week because I'm sober. Week after, I'm the gallousness with the swallow. Oh, it's going to be great. I can't wait.
He's got it all planned out.
Oh, man.
He's nice. He knows. He looks defeated already.
To be fair, I don't think I'd have got many more of them. I think you would have probably had me there, to be honest. I'm not sure. Jota was probably the only one at them I could have got.
I'm up for this, man. I'm up for it now. I feel like that's me. What have I hit now? How many have I won? Hunters? 6.
Well, that's 11-6 just now, 5
Oh,
points.
I'm flying, man. I'm nearly in double figures. I'm ready to go, man. Honestly, I'm fucking on the right track, man. Honestly, what have we got? Just you wait. Win next week, Stone Cold Sober. I get to call whether I get the free guest, whether I go fast, everything like that. God, Bhoycie. I've got the will of the people back as well. Not the people, but the people in the chat. I can feel it. They're all going to be like, God, Bhoycie, yes, man. And then the week after, it's all the gloves are off, man. Do you know what I mean? Because that'll be us down to 11-7, 4 in it. I'm just going to, honestly, just come on here like a steaming bull in a china shop. It's going to be great. Full of champagne.
I'm looking forward to it. It's about 10 you up to a game because this has been a bit too one-sided.
I've got it
all sussed,
man. I've got it sussed. Man. I can't wait. Right, anyway. Can you see Bhoycie coming? Right, straight out the traps. That's what I will be next week. Anyway, thank you to everyone who's joined us. Brilliant fun. Obviously, Celtic are back in action at the weekend, so the bus will be getting livelier and livelier as we look forward to us getting back to more competitive action, shall we say. Obviously, this week as well is as important a week as there ever is because the transfer window is very much open. Cheers to Phil, cheers to Jono, and keep your eyes on the board. See you later.